Right, the Qatar GP just wrapped up and we're going into Abu Dhabi now, man. All three drivers still have a chance of winning this title next week. Literally, up until today, I would not have expected that to be the case, but here we are. Let me just get into explaining the race, because while it wasn't that exciting of a race, the championship is now closer than ever. Do I just get straight into it? McLaren, I'm actually concerned. I don't support McLaren or nothing, but I could seriously see him bottling this whole championship. It's almost like they just don't care. They prioritise fairness too much to want to just let someone win. Well, let me just explain. Alright, we start off on the Friday with the sprint qualifying. To sum it up, Oscar has had Lando's number all weekend and he managed to secure pole for the first time since Sandford, which, fair play to him. I was really counting him out, so he managed to do really well around this track, was actually a bit surprising. But it showed that he's not just out yet. And Lando Norris ended up in third place, which, it's only a sprint so it didn't matter too much, but he would have liked better. And George Russell split both the McLarens, so fair play on him. Because honestly, the McLarens look like they're in a league of their own this weekend. Even Max Verstappen, the only other title contender, came 6th in sprint qualifying. So it looked like it was over for him on a Friday. Even Yuki Tsunoda managed to out-qualify him, which that's the first time that's ever happened. So, and look, I don't want to harp on too much about qualifying, but the best way I can put it is McLaren way ahead of everyone else. Mercedes and Red Bull are sort of fighting for the second best car. And let me talk about Ferrari real quick. If I really wanted to, I could do a whole nother video on how trash they are. I don't know. There's not enough words to describe how poor they've been, honestly. Especially coming out of last year, you just expected so much better from them, but this session especially just showed it at its finest. Lewis Hamilton was out in Q1 in both sessions. I know I haven't talked about the other one yet, but both. And Charles Leclerc only managed to qualify 9th in the sprint, which is crazy work. Just had no pace at all, honestly. They were struggling the whole weekend. So, by the looks of it, they ain't got nothing to compete with Mercedes and Red Bull, and they're just going to finish P4 in Constructors. That's the best they can get. Okay, in terms of qualifying though, I will give credit to the Williams and Fernando Alonso, because they both performed very well, better than I would have expected, especially the Williams. I did expect Alonso to do well, but Sainz and Albon both made it into Q3, which, fair play. I didn't think this would be a track they'd excel at, but here we are. And as far as the sprint, there really isn't much to talk about it. It was such a dry race. Nothing happened. The top three finished in the same order as the qualifying. The only places that were really made was Verstappen going up a couple places into 4th and Alonso dropping down into 7th. But issues shown in the race and no one had the opportunity to overtake. With only one DRS zone being the only point where people were even going to attempt anything, it just was a bleak race, big DRS train, and yeah, just poor watching. Perfect timing, as I was literally just trying to defend sprint races, and this one just shot down my whole point completely. It was not even worth watching. I think it was George Russell that said something about it being a qualifying championship, and that's just what it looked like, honestly. Alright, now let's talk about main race qualifying. Or not, because it was mostly similar to the sprint qualifying. Hamilton is still out in Q1. We have McLaren's dominating everyone else. Piastri on pole, Norris behind him. And the only real difference was Max did better qualifying just behind McLaren's. Yuki did even worse, going out in Q1, which kind of just shows that one good result on the Friday was just a flash in the pan. Leclerc qualifies 10th. That was really the best he could do. Even Gasly out-qualified him. The Alpine. The Ferrari is so cooked, man. But anyway, it's top 3 in the championship, top 3 in qualifying. The main race should be well exciting. Well, not really. Well, the first lap was a little exciting with Verstappen overtaking Norris on the first turn. Russell dropped a few places down to 7th, which is pretty poor from him, but besides that, the race just went as it went. Until lap 7 was the only point in the race where anything significant really happened. There was a collision between Gasly and Hülkenberg, who were fighting over points, and it ended up spinning Hülkenberg out and causing a safety car. And obviously you're going to think everyone just pits with a safety car, right? You can save time on a pit stop. So obviously that's what everyone does. Besides McLaren. What? Don't get me wrong. McLaren were the fastest this weekend. I thought they were going to just sweep with a 1-2, easily do everyone. But it was like a golden opportunity that they went off strategy to try, and I don't even know what they were trying, like, but it didn't work, that's for sure. So then, while Piastri had the pace to stay up front, he ended up losing that first place to Max, who obviously pitted during the safety car, leaving him just stuck in second. And Norris, with even less pace, was just falling behind, ended up in 4th or 5th when he came out of the safety car, but he managed to overtake Antonelli after he came off the track at the end. You see, I'm not really explaining much about the race because of the race, nothing really happened besides this. And it cost McLaren the win, essentially. Look, I don't know who they thought they were, I don't know what their strategy team were thinking, but clearly they just weren't in the right mind. Because neither of them pit, they both lost positions, which could have been an easy 1-2 or 1-3. Because Max was pretty fast today, but they lost out on it because they didn't want to pit with everyone else. With that 25 lap rule, maybe they assumed that they had a chance of other people's tyres degrading, but it's Pirelli. We've seen it in other races, it doesn't work like that. They just pit mad late and then lose the positions, which they have to fight for. Obviously, Piastri never made it back to Max. If you couldn't tell already, Max won the race. And because of this decision, Lando didn't even make it on the podium, with Carlos Sainz actually ended up on the podium again. Yeah, I've got to give all the credit to Sainz, man. Qualified well at 7th, and then with a good strategy, getting the pit stop perfect, managed to come out at a lovely position to be able to take advantage of McLaren's not pitting. In the end, Antonelli and Norris weren't able to catch up with him, so he caught a podium. So good for him. At this point, he's probably glad he went to Williams, because seeing how Ferrari done, like, I think he's doing pretty well for himself. I think Leclerc was in 9th and Hamilton was out of the points, so it was a poor from them, but I don't want to talk about it, honestly. But yeah, boring race, boring sprint. Qualifying was interesting, but it's more about the consequence of these races, which makes a difference. On Friday, Max Verstappen looked like he was out of the picture, like he just did not have the pace of the McLarens, but he's ended up winning the race, overtaking Piastri in the standings, and is now 12 points behind Lando Norris. Maybe Verstappen has a good chance if something similar happens again. I know Piastri's got to be gutted because he was by far the fastest person this weekend. He had the number on basically everybody, but poor McLaren strategy led to him coming second only. Honestly, I feel bad for McLaren fans because I don't even know if McLaren want their drivers to win. I don't think it was all about this fairness thing, and especially in this race. Just their lack of, or I don't even know how to put it, like them trying to be bold when they could have just played it safe and then got better results than they ended up getting. I don't understand it. Like, who did they think they were? Look, maybe if there wasn't the 25 lap rule with the tyres, they could have outdone Verstappen, but there wasn't. So they just ended up looking stupid, essentially. And with the DSQ in the last race and a bottle this race, they cannot afford to bottle it again in Abu Dhabi next week. Like, technically, Piastri still has a chance of winning the title in the next race. He's only 16 points behind. But at the end of the day, Lando's still ahead. He kind of has one hand on the title. Like, if he just has a half decent race next week, then he'll have the championship. But, like, seeing this and seeing the last race and seeing all the whole fairness thing they've been doing and what they've been doing for the whole season, apparently, it doesn't fill you with much hope at all. Because the way I look at it, if it really comes down to it and Norris just needs to overtake Piastri to win the championship, are they going to do that? Probably not. So are they willing to lose the championship to Verstappen over fairness? Like, I don't know. I still think Norris is going to win it next race, but I wouldn't be surprised if Max clinched it due to McLaren just being incompetent, to be honest. I could genuinely waffle on about how useless they are. I'm sure you all are thinking the same as what I'm thinking. Like, the opportunity was right there, and they just keep letting it slip away from them. Like, Max, think about it. He was 100 points behind at one point. He is now 12 behind and ahead of one of the McLaren drivers. I would argue that's unacceptable from them. And the worst part is, I don't even think Zach Brown cares about the Drivers' Championship. Now they've already won a Constructors' Championship, I feel like he doesn't really care what happens from this point, which is kind of terrible. There is a good chance there's a repeat of 2007 again, where Verstappen just clinches it and wins the title while both the McLaren drivers fight for their own I don't even know. Nothing really. Anyways, I'm sure that briefing was great to hear. I would have loved to be on the fly on that wall. I bet both of the drivers are mad as hell. The team, I won't even listen to them at this point. They've just got to hope for the best going into next week. And simply said, if Verstappen's on form, it might be over for him. The both of them. Like, if you're asking me, I would put all the priority into Norris. Unless he's actually stinking up the race and Piastri's miles ahead. Just let Norris get that overtake and secure the championship. It looks better on the team, everything like that. I get the racing aspect of it, but do they want both of their drivers to lose to Verstappen after they've been the most dominant car all season? I think it's a terrible look on both their drivers. Look, I could talk about it all day, but I reckon the team are just getting an earful during the debrief. Hopefully they fix up for next week and secure a good result. Real quick, let me just go over my predictions, which were troublesome. Let's just say that. Right, for sprint pole, I predicted Verstappen, which was wrong. It was Piastri. For the main race, I predicted Verstappen first, Norris second, Piastri third, when it actually was Piastri, Russell, Norris. So actually, while I shit on McLaren a lot, let me just give Piastri the credit, right? Because he's been out of form for the past how many weekends now, and he's actually looked very good this weekend. Like, if it wasn't for that stupid McLaren call, he would have won the race and been in a good chance of winning the title next week. But fairness, right? While his efforts may be too little too late, at least you can see he's still got it and could still fight. So fair play to Piastri. And speaking of Piastri, he also got pole, not Norris, which actually, I haven't spoken about Norris's qualifyings yet. 2 out of 2 times he had aborted his final lap because of some issue happening before his lap. I don't think he's ever going to beat these bottle allegations, because in a sprint qualifying, he let Albon overtake, which fucked up his initial run into his final lap. And in the main qualifying, he just messed up turn 2 after it looked like Russell could have gotten away, but he didn't really. So while Norris did have chances of bagging pole, he kind of messed up the opportunities he had, and Piastri clinched both of them, which, to be fair, he looked like the faster one anyway, so fair play. And my top 3 was absolutely shocking. The only one I had in the top 3 was Verstappen, and he didn't finish second, he finished first. At third place, Russell, which he actually had a poor race. I think he ended up 6th. It was behind Antonelli because he had a terrible start and just couldn't make the places up from there. I mean, at the end of the day, it was hard to predict that Piastri would just magically get back on form and Sainz podium. Like, if you predicted that, you got to just enter the lottery tomorrow. Alright, bold predictions. I had there's going to be drama between one of the championship rivals. Like, not really, but kind of. Like, that pit stop is the drama, or non-pit stop. You know what, I ain't got shit else, right, I'm counting it. I also had Alonso top 6, which didn't come through, but I think he's still finishing the points in both races, so fair play to him. He raced his heart out. He did spin though during the main race, which lost him a couple of places, but he still performed well, definitely in comparison to Lance Stroll, which isn't really an achievement anyways, but fair play to him. Alonso had a good race. And I guessed Ocon for P20, and while he did have an absolute stinker race, getting a penalty and all that, it was actually Hulkenberg that got DNF'd first, which was what I predicted last race, so maybe I'll just move Ocon down to the next race, sorry. So yeah, predictions in the bin, they were terrible, whatever, on to next week. And the main thing to take away into the final race of the season is, will McLaren essentially lose to themselves? The one advantage Verstappen does have to the McLarens is that he's the only driver in his team, while McLaren are managing 2 drivers and can't really give either priority as they both have a chance. Verstappen gets all the priority to do what he wants, which benefits him in the long run. Plus, not to state the obvious, but like, he's clearly a better driver than both the McLarens. They're still a bit shaky, a bit green. He can clearly pick up all the errors that they're making and salvage them into his own points. So essentially, he could win the next race if the McLarens end up fighting each other for whatever position they want. It could benefit Verstappen in the long run. I ain't got too much more to say besides this could be a generational McLaren bottle. I feel a little bad for Piastri because he should have won this weekend, but how many times have I got to say McLaren are just generational bottlers? I think Norris is getting a bit shaky now, knowing that he's got one chance to win this. He is ahead, so he can afford a little grace, but honestly, Verstappen might be looking like the favourite going into next week. Well, one race to go, and we all know what happened last time they settled a championship battle back here. If a Qatar wasn't a movie, it was boring as hell, like nothing really. then Abu Dhabi should be a movie. I'm so serious this time. Cool, I'm going. Like, subscribe, comment, anything you want. Like a lot again, subscribe again. Shout out to all of you, and into Abu Dhabi we go. I want to talk about Ferrari, I'll be honest, but what is there to say? Let's just hope 2026 is their year. I'm not optimistic at all, but I hope is a hell of a thing.